Hello. Well, today is the eve of Christmas Eve, so I thought it appropriate to do a drawing of something Christmas related. This version of Santa Claus, created by Coca Cola in the 20th century throughout its decades, was kind of Coca Cola, the Coca Cola company, that established this commonly used Santa Claus persona, with the outfit, the red hat, the furry brim, the big beard, the red jacket, the black belt, the fur around the big furry sleeves. Okay, I'm going to try to draw this Coca-Cola Santa Claus. I'm going to leave this out, the advertisement. But right now I'm just kind of preparing by studying the proportions. And I noticed that the beard takes up about a third of the vertical right here. It's massive, and it's very wide also. His face is very expressive with some great features. So first I'm going to try to get these proportions correct and do an outline, and then I'll just gradually add detail from there. So let me get started. Got my pencil sharpened. All right. The beard. Let's see, a third. Person can always use the pencil to do some quick measurements, either on paper or out there in space. That's pretty good. Okay, so we'll go with his beard slightly up. Make a mark there, make a mark there. Okay, now I have his. I just did a line there, a line there. Now in this image, left to right, this edge of his head, his face, is pretty much centered. But as you can see, it's slightly, here's probably the center line, just as I call it, eyeing it. As I'm eyeing it, I'd say the center line is probably, I'm not going to measure it, but it's right about here, isn't it? So his face would come down just to the right of that, the edge of his face. So let's see, I'll put the edge of his face right here. Okay, we got those two measurements. Now this beard, the beard, it's an oval shape, isn't it? Pretty much oval. So that's what I'm going to go with. And it's, let me see. Let me measure it. Well, that's immaterial because my paper is not the same XY proportion as this, so it doesn't really matter. So let me just go back and I'll make an oval. Most of the oval is over here under his head, this part of the beard. I'm just going to estimate it. It doesn't have to be exact because beards change shape anyway as the person moves around. It hangs this way, hangs that way. Let's see. Okay, kind of has a little flap that comes over here onto his jacket. And then let's see. At this point, I do want to get his head correct, though. Otherwise, he may look a little distorted. So, it kind of is triangular in its shape. So you have a wide base here, and this side goes up. It would point, let's see, and this side goes up, and they would probably reach the point where those two lines meet up here. Okay. Let me estimate. I'd say it's about twice, if you doubled the height of his head, where those 2 points meet is about right up there, about double the height of his head. So I'm going to try to use that as a calculation. All right, we know this is the side of the right side of that face. I'm going to extend that straight line up in space. It goes beyond the paper, just like in the Coca Cola advertisement. Okay, now I've made this the other side of his head. I'll put it right about here. I don't want it to be too big. I can always adjust the size of his beard later if it's too large, too small. But I'm going to, okay, we know that his head is about 1/3 of the vertical, so we'll put it about here. And let's see, I'm going to double that head dimension. Point is up there somewhere. Okay, let me come down. Go up here straight, down here. Make a real light line. Okay, that's kind of a temporary edge for his head. But an artist has to think like that. An artist has to think about proportions and how he can or she can mirror that set of proportions that the eye sees in space down onto the paper. So let me try this calculation. I'm going to round the top of his head. Rounded head up here. All I'm doing now is just trying to get some rough but close to correct calculations for these proportions. You see his hair kind of flares out that way underneath his cap. And then it's going to come down sort of roughly straight down. So I'm going to add that in. This is just to come up with an outline that will be detailed later. I could do this in colored pencil, but color's another dimension that's not necessary. All right. Now, in the image, in the advertisement, there's a little round bell, almost hidden underneath the side of the beard. Okay, let's compare the shape of his head there. Looks pretty good. I'm going to have to get these lines developed onto the other side. Now directly across from this little outpouring of hair here on the above his ear. Directly across is where his right eyebrow kind of sticks out, right about there. And then this kind of does an S curve. Okay, then this meanders down like another S curve. All right. All right, now got to determine where this bottom lip is in space. So how am I going to calculate that? Okay, if I come across from this angle made by the beard, if I go straight across there, I can start forming his face with proportions. So I'd say halfway up from the top of his head to that horizontal line here is this highlight on his nose. I'd say that's about halfway. So once I do that, I make this measurement. I'll probably find that halfway between this line and this highlight is this bottom of his mustache. And then from there to there is this halfway from here to the top of his head would be his left eyebrow and things like that. So I'm going to start doing those calculations. All right. Okay, so I said from here over to here. I'll put a little mark. Here's where that angle is on his beard. Straight across. Okay. And I'm not using a ruler or anything. I'm just using my sense of proportion that most of us do have. Okay. Halfway up from this line to the top of his head would be that highlight on his nose. Halfway up from the highlight on his nose to the top of his head would be that left eyebrow. I'll put it over here somewhere. And then as you can see, this there's going to be a slant. His head is kind of tilted. So this will slant downward to where this imaginary line, we want that to line up with this eyebrow on the right. So I'll just lightly mark that in. Okay. Now we still have the highlight here in his nose. And here's that horizontal measurement I made earlier. Okay, now I said the lip. No, not the lip. The top of his mustache would be halfway from there to the highlight on his nose. So that's about here. Okay, that's the top of it. That's the bottom of his. If I said lip, I meant to say the bottom of his mustache is halfway from here to the highlight on top and this horizontal line down here. Okay, so that's his mustache. I'm going to go ahead and start trying to form his face up proportionately as closely as I can. All right. So here's that one eyebrow. Gonna just Give it a little bit of form. Now I have to go left and right and figure out how these are all going to space themselves together. That should be interesting. Okay, we have this, 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 and this. They're all about a fourth into quarters. If you divide that into quarters, you have those. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now I have to do it this way. So I know I have this established. I have this established. So I'm going to go make measurements from left to right. Okay, now that left eye under this eyebrow is pretty much centered left and right, especially the iris, the blue iris. And it's I would say underneath this eyebrow, this heavy eyebrow, I'll go ahead and give it some more form. Well, let's see. Now I'm confusing myself with X and Y. I need to stick to one or the other. Okay, I'm going left to right. Now his eye, which is just to the right of this crop of hair sticking out, right about here. It is above this nose highlight. And I'd say it's also halfway between the edge of his hair here and this side of his face. So let me go over and make it halfway between here and here. Halfway is about there. Okay, now this is going to be the side of his, or that side of his, what do you call it, pupil, or not pupil, but iris in his eyeball, on his eyeball. So I'll go ahead and just lightly sketch that in. Okay, it doesn't look very good now, but at least I have a point where I can develop it. Now, we made this angle of his eyebrows kind of like this. So I'm going to go down, and his eyes are going to have that same angle if they're symmetrical, and they are in this Santa Claus. So let me go see. Do. I'm just going to lightly sketch it in because I have not calculated its shape too much or its size. Okay, now this highlight on his nose, I have to figure out where that's going to go, left and right. I have it vertical, but not left and right on the X. So let me put, there's a side of that iris right here. Now, I'm just going to estimate that from the angle of the eye that arches down like this. If I go down from there, the highlight on his nose lines up with that vertical line. So let me shape that in. And it also, the highlight also corresponds to the top of this eye over here, basically. So yeah, that looks about right. Okay, and then this part of his nose where his nostril is. Okay, there's the highlight. That's pretty important in this image. Now I can make a highlight on the left part of his face under this eyeball. under this eye, which is pretty much comes from this side of the iris. There's a highlight here that covers this part of his skin under the eye, and then kind of recedes into that little indentation under there, little wrinkle, whatever you want to call it. And then this highlight, which is right at about the top, corresponds to the height of this highlight over here. Okay. It comes out kind of angles like this. Now, I have the bottom of his mustache, and from the bottom of his mustache to the top of this nose highlight, about halfway between the mustache and the highlight, would be, I would say, this nostril, left nostril, which is underneath the corner of this eye. So let's see, halfway about here. Okay, that's pretty much center point for that nostril, and we're underneath Santa Claus at an angle, so we're kind of looking up into his nose. So that hole, that nostril, whatever we call that, anatomically, is right there. Okay, now here, I've not figured this eye yet over here as far as left and right, but let me see. If I go down and extend this highlight down, and it should be, the highlight turns into the left side of his the left nostril, which is underneath this white of his eye. Okay, so that would be right here. That's about right. And then, of course, this is a center under his nose. I can go ahead and make a center where the mustache divides. It should be about there. Of course, it's going to be to the right of that nostril. There's another nostril over here. And, okay. Let's just go with the width of this eye. Hopefully it's close, otherwise it may mess up all the other measurements on the face, but I'm going to use this left and right dimension of this eye. Just eyeing it. It looks to me like it's pretty close. So this width of this eye is about the width of this side of the nostril to the other nostril. Okay, let me estimate. Okay, so yeah, that width is about the same as this width. All right, good. All right, now I want to get this eye over here more developed, and it's the same level vertically as the top of this nose highlight. So I come over here, yeah, and where is it in relation to this nostril? Ooh, I can see I've goofed up this. If I put the edge of his nose here, okay, should be farther over. If I goofed up here, maybe I estimated this width of the eye incorrectly. because this should go much farther. This side of the nose, over here, the right side, should go much farther up to the right. All right, let's see. This nostril should be over here somewhere. In fact, that nostril might need to be bigger there. Yeah, looking at it again, this blackness of this left nostril, slightly smaller than this iris in the eye, in the left eye. So what am I doing wrong? Oh, I know what it is. I had it too far to the left, that left nostril. Because it should correspond to the corner of this eye, not the iris. This black nostril. Okay, so there's the edge right there. All right, now let me darken that in a bit. Okay, as you can see, coming up with facial proportions can be very dynamic. It changes depending on one thing affects everything else. Okay, but I think this may be a little closer. And I'm not going to do any detail until I have these proportions right. Otherwise, I'm just flailing, putting in details for no reason, because it's not going to look any more like the Santa Claus if I do that. All right, I think that's looking okay now. It's kind of a wide, bulbous nose anyhow, so let me get this edge of his nose, and then, okay, this one is, I think is still okay, this highlight up here on his nose. It's not much of a highlight now, but it will become so. And then if I go up from this nostril, there's some shading above that highlight, and it will form highlight and shadow going up this way, kind of slightly angled. Okay, now there's some shadow here to the right of this. This eye kind of angles down. Now this eye over here is going to be a challenge. I'm realizing now, I think I had the wrong slope. This starts to slope right about at the edge, left and right. The slopes, beginning of the slope over here kind of corresponds to this edge of that eyebrow. So let me go. Started there. Come down a little straight. Maybe less severe of an angle for this edge of his eyes and face. Okay, now go ahead and fill this nostril in some more, because I'm going to use this nostril also. I think this edge of this face needs to come down in a little bit more. Now also, I had that estimated wrongly. Okay, I don't want him too skinny though. Okay, there's that nostril, and you can barely see the edge of his nose here in this advertisement. And the hair from his mustache almost looks like it's growing up into that nostril. It's not, but the mustache is so furry and so, what's the word? So large. Okay. Now, this eye seems to be about, okay, if I extend this eyebrow over here, which corresponds to this right nostril. If you go vertically up, then the left edge of this right eyebrow begins. So I'll go up here, and also it's about halfway between this and this, vertically between the bottom of his left eye and the top of his left eyebrow. That's where, here, halfway, come over here to the right, extend to the right, that's where, put a little mark there, that's where this eyebrow on the right, the bottom left corner of it would begin. So, and remember, it's above this nostril. So yeah, that looks about right. Let me start filling that in. And it goes up a little bit. The top of it would just extend into where this eyebrow, the mass of that eyebrow is. So it'd be up here, and then start curving down, kind of an S curve. An expressive eyebrow look on this Santa. It kind of goes back up and then starts going back down again. All right, that's a pretty big eyebrow. Goes straight across on the bottom, and then it curves down around the corner of that top of the eye. Now there's kind of a wrinkle above his eye. Looks like a triangle. I'll show you. Whoa. This looks like a little triangle pointing to the left. So, and it's starts about halfway from the corner of this eyebrow to the corner of his eye. It's about halfway between those. So I'm going to use those measurements, which, if I briefly check, they seem to be okay. Halfway between this corner and that corner is about there. Okay, there's that little skin triangle. I don't know what it's called. I didn't study much anatomy, at least in art school. Okay, and then, okay, we got the inside of the eye, I think, which I said was right about here above this nostril. And then the iris. Let's see if this seems to turn out right. It might not, but according to my calculations on the picture, left and right wise, the right side of this right eye's iris should be about halfway between the edge of his face and this corner. So I'll put it right there. So far, yeah, it might work. It might work. Now, he doesn't have really dark eyelashes. I guess because he's so old. He has dark eyebrows, but not eyelashes. So let me form this in. It's angles down, and there's wrinkles here. Okay, now I can see there's going to be a need to put in some detail, a lot of detail over here. There's wrinkles that come up like this. And then let me get the highlight above this left eye going. It's just a tentative thing because, like I said, portraits are dynamic. And this one's not even moving, but you try to do one that's moving, or you're trying to keep from moving, it can be very challenging. Okay, now. All right, there's the top of his head. So far, I think it's pretty close. It's going to need some adjustment, but as always, but got a good start. Okay, now his mouth. His eyes are beginning to take shape. Look at that huge bottom lip. I'm going to have to figure out how to put that in and where it's going to go. But I think I realize that it might not be that difficult. I have the bottom of this mustache. Now, if I double the length or the dimension from top of this nostril to the bottom of this mustache here that I calculated before, if I double that, I think that's pretty close to his bottom lip. Not exact. I think the bottom lip is a little more than half. So here would be half. Double that. Okay. And then a little more than that, my eye is telling me, my sense of perception would be about there. Now, okay, in the center of that arc, reverse arc, arch I should say, would be the lowest point would be right under this part of his nose. So yeah, that's pretty close. Okay, and it's going to arc up, or curve up to this part of the mustache, and horizontally it should meet up with the mustache at about this point under this center, about where the pupil is in this eye. So right under here, go down straight down. That should be where this lip meets up with that mustache. Okay, got it there. All right. Now, I'm going to do the same thing with the left side of his bottom lip. It meets up with the mustache here. Vertically, I'll make an estimation right about here on his eye. So it comes down there, and okay, I'm going to curve that lip up. And then I'd say the lip itself, if you consider this vertical space between the bottom of his mustache and the bottom of his lip, I'd say the top of his lip is about a third of that distance. So here would be, between here and there, there'd be a half. I don't want a half. Got to estimate a third, which would be, let's see, third. So right about here. I'm just going to make a parallel line that, okay. Now I'm just gonna, now that I have all those facial features down, I'm just going to sort of eye it and check it with my sense of perception. And what do I think? I think, I think it will work. All right, no major errors, glaring errors. Let me I do see one here. His forehead sticks out too far. Remember, I moved these lines in a bit, so I need to move the top of his head here in a little bit too. Okay, now his hair kind of flops down right above the corner of this eyebrow. So let me remember that. Which would be around here somewhere. Okay, and here's the curve of his head. Now, to see how far down that hair hangs into his face, I'm going to let's see, I've decided that from the top of this eye, if I take the dimension of the top of this eye to the top of this eyebrow, if I double that, that's close to where that hair ends, that hangs down. Okay. Now, not being as particular, I'm going to sketch in that hair there. I'm going to start sketching in little minor details that don't really matter too much. Now this mustache kind of scoops up more horizontally here. It almost points outward past the edge of his beard. Now let me check the width of his beard. This part of his beard should be a little less than this width from here to here. So let me use my pencil, measure. And it is. Good. I have to check, doing especially portraits that are supposed to capture the essence of a person's being. It's really difficult sometimes to get them right, so constantly checking is a good thing. Now this other stuff will not be as critical. It'll be more fun too. I'm just sketching in the furry brim of this. Is that a brim or a bill? I guess that's a, I don't know what that is. Maybe a brim, furry brim. Okay, this needs a little bit of detail on his eye. I'll get to the details, the heavy details on these structure of these eyes later. But I think they're pretty close. Yeah, that's gonna be a little technical here on this eye. Yeah. Yep. Now the height of this eye from the lower lid to the top lid, if I double that, I come up with this little line down here. Double that. Okay. And then we do the same thing over here. Let me check it. I've already done it. But it should be above this over here. And it is. Okay, good. Now this brow up here should be a little heavier. Okay. And the hat. Not as critical, but I want to get the general shape of it. close as I can without making too many measurements. And now the bottle, I almost don't even want to put the bottle in there. Now let me check the height of his beard from the bottom lip to the bottom of the beard. Let me see. That should be slightly less vertically than from the top of his head to the bottom of his lip. So let me see. Measure that. Yeah, it's less. This should be less, not way down here. So yeah, that's about right. Here's the bell. Here's his shoulder. Light lines, so it'll be easy to erase. Alright, now get his fat tummy out here. That's a pretty fat tummy. Alright, now the buttons in his coat. Well, underneath his beard, down here somewhere. Where he buttons up his coat, that will start to the right of his head, down here. So I'll go maybe about the width of his nose, that much distance. Go down from the side of his head, the width of his nose distance, right about here. I did that calculation by looking at the advertisement. And then about double this vertical distance of this beard measurement is where actually the end of this advertisement is, right about here. So I have to keep that in mind too, otherwise I'm going to have a huge Coke bottle and a huge belt and everything. If I try to magnify it down here, it's going to look odd. So I'm just going to draw down to this point. In my early calculations, I said this was a third, but actually I don't know how I did that. The main thing is start with the face. The face is the most critical. That's what captures the essence of a person's personality and being. So yeah, I think this is going to be okay if I start the belt. Here's a button right about there, and the space to his belt is way shorter than this space from his lip to his beard. So belt buckle right around here under the button, and it's this is not all exact up here. I'll probably have to do some erasing, but it's also not as critical as his face. So I'm going to go ahead and sketch in some details, some outlines. Actually, the drawing will stop about here. I may improvise and put in some more detail of my own later. Okay, the belt kind of go straight across here. And the bottle starts coming down from this side of the eye. If I go down from this corner straight down, right below this bottom lip is where the opening of the bottle is. Right about here. Okay, and that's going to curve in a bit, and then it's going to curve back out a bit, kind of come straight down. And the bottle bottom will, here I've drawn in this top of the black belt. The bottom of the bottle will be just above the top of this belt. So I'll put the bottom of the bottle right there, that measurement. And now the opening of the Coke bottle, I'd say, is about as wide as this eye is wide. So I'm gonna eye it, and slightly angled that way is the bottle, the top of the bottle. The vertical position of the bottle is angled kind of this way. So I have to keep that in mind. Okay. Width of the eye, width of the part of the bottle that we drink from. Okay, let me shape that a little bit. Not exact, just some basic lines. Okay. Now the center of the bottle. There will be a center. I'll go ahead and try to estimate that. It kind of points right up into his eye at this angle. There's a real light, faint line. Goes down the center of the Coke bottle. I'll use that. And if anyone has seen a Coke bottle, especially the old classic Coke bottle, it pretty much is lasered into that brain, you know. Okay, I'm just going to try to mirror this side with this side, the same distances, because it's not going to morph. It's perfectly round. We're not going to see this anyway because his hand is going to be there. But this bottom, we're looking at the bottom straight on, not holding the bottle like this or like that. It's pretty much straight up and down as far as the viewer is concerned. And the height of the bottle, if you take the top of his head to the bottle top, the bottle will be about that same dimension, the same length. So there to there, that's about right. Maybe a little longer than that, so I'll leave it like that. Now his thumb comes up. His thumb holding the bottle is located between the beard and the bottom of the bottle, about halfway. And it takes up about a third of that distance, the thumb does. So we can figure a third here, about a third, a little less than a third, just in my estimation. Okay, and now his hand. His hand starts. The pointy finger, of course, is at the top. And I'd say it's located about halfway down this bottle, which is underneath the edge of that beard. So right about here. And then that pointy finger extends to about the center line of the bottle. So I'll go ahead and lightly sketch that in. Okay, now this ring finger, I notice that it corresponds to the bottom of the thumb, the top of that ring finger. Okay, and then the pinky fits right in below fits in right below the end of the ring finger. So, and it, of course, physically works differently than the rest of the fingers. It kind of has its own way of angling and pointing, and it's shorter, so it's going to be straight in like that. Now, this knuckle is bent, extending down, and this knuckle, I'd say, is right about there. Underneath that is the middle finger, which is right across from the thumb. And the pointy part of that middle finger is right about here, right above the ring finger. And it angles up. First knuckle is right about here, under this pointing finger. Okay. And that segment of the middle finger points down a little bit. This segment is almost, points up a little less. And then the top of the middle finger, right about here at the edge of the bottle, right under the pointing finger, and then moves down like that. Now, here is the thumb. I noticed that the knuckle, where the middle finger meets the hand, is slightly above this thumb. So it's right there. See how you can keep taking measurements in your head, in your eyes, and check all the dimensions, all the proportions. Because if the proportions don't look right, the subject may not, unless you're an abstract artist, or somebody like Picasso who can just, or John Lennon who could just squiggle some lines down on a page and somehow capture the essence of something. And people like me have no idea how they do it, because I like to draw realistically. I like to be able to know what it is I'm drawing. Maybe I'm just not smart enough to draw abstractly. Okay. Now this, the width of this finger is basically the width, same width as the pointy finger, this ring finger. And it's kind of heavy, kind of muscular, kind of big, kind of like that middle finger is. I don't think I have enough width on the middle finger. Here's this part of the hand, whatever that's called. I forgot. And this part of the thumb down here, the base of the thumb, is actually right here. Now I'll do the details of the fingers later. I just want to get the general form of the entire portrait done here. Here's the sleeve. I'm going to go ahead and improvise my own details for the rest of this advertisement that do not exist in this picture. So this furry sleeve comes down here. Shadow. Some wrinkles in his arm. Big, wide belt. I'll make it really wide since in this advertisement you can't even see the bottom of the belt. So I can make it bigger probably than it really is, as long as it looks symmetrical. It curves down. There's a little loop here, loop there. And I have his tight belt, but I'm going to make his coat bulge a bit, kind of like it bulges up here a bit. All right, let me put some shape in his beard and his mustache. There's a little shadow down here. It's very white, but his ear area, there's quite a bit of shadow underneath it. It's kind of a silver beard with no black in it. Real shiny and reflective. Here's the bottle. I'll put some details in the bottle. Slightly curved from this point of view. Kind of a furry beard with I'm just kind of sitting back and checking things, checking dimensions and proportions in the entire image. Now, the advertisement only comes down to about here, so maybe I should cover that up and check it. Actually, I think this hand needs to come out to the left a little more, because under the bell, whoops, see how far to the left his hand comes past this vertical edge of the bell? Mine is too far to the right, this way. So now I have to move that all over. In fact, yeah, I think it's just the width of the hand. So let me move some of these lines over a bit. And of course the bell may not necessarily be in the right place either. So I'm going to compromise and do a little of both. I'll move the hand to the left a little bit before I make it too concrete in its details. Okay, I think that'll work. And this bell, I didn't really use any measurements when I put the bell down anyway. So I'm going to do that now. It's about double its location left and right. It's about, take the width of this part of his face. It's about double, or go to the left of that, and that'll be that side of the bell. Yeah, I was a little too far over to the left. Okay, the bell's there. Okay, good. All right, it's been fun doing this first part of the drawing. How can drawing Santa Claus not be fun, I ask? Let me check this angle here. Yeah, I guess that's okay. And this looks a little strange up here. I think his forehead or his head slopes in too much. Yeah, there's a little bit of hair that comes like this. Yeah, kind of a cute little, what do you call that? In the hair. But that part of the head is too pointy. So let me fix that. Actually, I notice now what I did. Above his eyebrow, I went up correctly, but it should be more straight from there, about where this part of his face is. It should correspond to that left and right, the X dimension. So let me go up here. That's better. Okay, now this embossment on the bottle where the Coca Cola insignia logo is, right about here. Coke bottle's going to take some detail too with its reflections. Clear glass, that will be challenging. There's another button hiding under this buckle actually. Okay, let me see. I think it's going okay. A lot more details to come. But for now, I'm taking a break. I'll be back with it later. Okay, I'd better get this done because today is Christmas Eve. And this guy's going to be really busy later on. So I had better get this done. Alright, now let me see where I am. Got most of the calculations finished. Let me erase some of these guidelines. And get this thing ready for all the detail. I started composing some music for this yesterday. That's the day that I did all these outlines. And basically I just started recording my guitar using variations of the song Jolly Old St. Nicholas. Do, 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 do. And then I use those notes from my guitar to create some more phrases, musical phrases that will be played by different instruments, all kinds of variations. So when I'm done with this drawing, I'll finish that up, add that music track. You might be hearing it right now, even though I haven't done it yet. That's the magic of video software, video audio software. Digital audio workstations, DAWs, are lots of fun. If you like music, check them out. Let's see here. All right. Got my pencil resharpened. Now, when I do a portrait, I always like to get as much done on the face as I can, because the face is where the whole image rotates around. If I don't have the face right, none of the other parts of the body will make it look like that person. I mean, I could spend all day detailing a person's hand, but if the face does not look like that person, it's not really going to help too much. On the reference, these Santa Claus cheeks are very red, as if he just walked out of a sub-zero environment to grab a Coca Cola. In this reference, he has blue eyes, and the pupils rest right down at the bottom of his lids here. See? And then he's got these dark eyebrows. It's funny that the only darkness on his head is in his eyebrows, as far as hair. Everything else is just plain white, which tells me he's very old, but his personality shown by his face portrays some youthful vigor. I need to whiten this area right here because it's very bright white. Of course, I'm using this mahl stick, MAHL, mostly used for painters, but I like to use it for drawing too, so I don't get this part of my hand all smudged up, and then this doesn't look all gray after I've wiped it all over the pencil. Okay, I'll try to use the side of my pencil here for these soft shades on his cheeks. And then, of course, his mouth is bright red, which makes a great contrast against that very white beard of his. I'm making tiny little pencil marks, but I will use a blending stick, a tortillion or blending stick, to smooth them all out into each other. On this painting of Santa Claus, there happens to be no teeth shown, just a big, wide open, happy mouth. Creating portraits can be really fun once a person gets the hang of it. Once all the calculations of how to find the correct proportions and then get them down on your paper. If that can be done first, then the rest of this, like the detailing, is just so much fun. Because it's very likely going to turn out pretty accurately. I use the side of my lead, my graphite pencil lead, because it spreads out that stroke a lot more, and it's a lot lighter, which is what I want right here. Now this is very bright over here. There's a bright light shining down from the upper left. A little bit of gray right here that defines the edge of his hair in front of his ear. Then up here, this is underneath the edge of his cap. Our little curly hairs right here. And that is the case as it keeps moving down. There's a little wisp of hair right under his ear there. Spins up, and then there's like a soft line of hair right across to the left of this Coke bottle top right here. Kind of goes in a little bit. There's a little shade. And then here too. Now there's some outer edge of his beard that kind of pops back up right here. Okay, it's starting to look more like Santa. And this, you see the edge of his skin right here, right above his mustache on the left side. And we got some like laugh lines that come out from this area of his eyes, because he's of course very jovial. Santa is a very happy person. All that Coca Cola he gets to drink while he's traversing the earth, distributing gifts. I don't know if his sleigh has a bathroom in it, but he might need that with all the Coca Cola he's drinking. Okay, this whole forehead is basically the same tone, like a pinkish tan. So I'm trying to keep the same pressure all along the forehead. There's that highlight right here. Remember that I used for calculating the proportions of his face. It came in real handy in this portrait. I'm going to highlight that some more with my handy dandy eraser here in a minute. Yeah, I'm going to blend. First, I'm going to do some blending. These things, I guess it'll still work. Okay, I want to smooth those tiny little strokes into one little mass. See how nicely that works? This blender stump. Okay, for now, I just want to get some really smooth tones. This probably extends too much into negative space where there's supposed to be highlights and bright white. So I will have to correct that with my eraser. Now this dark eyebrows too, I could use a little blending. Same here. Okay. So far, so good. Nice and smooth. Smooth and nice. Alright, I like the way his face is coming out. Capture the essence of a person in his or her face, and that makes the rest of the portrait much easier. Okay, now I'm going to do some necessary darkening in some areas. These pupils are pretty big, which means he's not in a very bright light. All right, now see if I can get these a little darker with this nice graphite pencil lead here. It's not lead, it's graphite. And his nostrils. Okay, now there's some wrinkles in his forehead. Smaller ones up above. I guess, you know, Santa Claus is about 2,000 years old. But he aged very well. He just always has these large laugh lines by his eyes. Okay, he has a really dark shadow inside his mouth, under his mustache. Little rounded nose here. Okay, shadow made by the nose on his mustache. And I'm going to work in shades of gray all over his mustache and his beard. Then I will smooth that just like I did his face. It's not going to take a lot of shading on this beard because it's so white. I should have enough grayness residue on my blending stick to get these areas with just a slight gray. I won't even need to put the pencil down on it. So bright. I'll hit this bottle while I'm here. That edge. Okay. The glass of the bottle is nicely outlined in this painting, so it's easy to see. I may not worry too much about the Coca Cola logo on the bottle itself. But mainly just the structure of the glass here. Glass can be a challenging subject because you can see through it, and yet it has some translucence. It's not all invisible. There's refraction that goes on in the glass. light shifting, shifting of color, shifting of the image that passes through it, as far as where the image shows up after it passes through that glass. This is a little bit greenish blue through here. Actually, there's a reflection. This whole edge of the Coke bottle is reflected red by Santa's red suit. Of course, it will not be red here. It will just be a little lighter shade than the dark Coca Cola. See, this is all being reflected over here by this red suit, bright red suit. Now, to get this Coca Cola logo, I'm just going to draw a shade underneath, kind of a medium gray shade, and then darken in where the liquid can be seen underneath that embossed glass, right here. There's that big C that begins the word cola. You can barely make it out. That's all we need. People will get the gist. Okay, there's this pointy finger at the top. A little bit for his nail. Generally, this is the same shade through this, the rest of this finger, middle finger here. Same for this part of the pointy finger. And there's a heavy shadow under this big knuckle. And then you see the lack of light between that middle finger and the bottle underneath that middle finger. Now, I'm not really worrying about the proportions of this portrait, Santa portrait, because I did all that before with all of these outlines. All these outlines get you ready for finishing the portrait. Here's the knuckle where the little finger meets the hand at the bottom. And it's pretty much, like I said before, straight across, extending out into the portrait, wrapped around the bottom of the Coke bottle. And you have some interesting lighting underneath here. Whereas his thumb, the base of his thumb, underneath the Coke bottle. Let me darken the bottom of the Coke bottle. And then this here is shaded, reflecting the red coat. There's some really dark shadows under here, so this graphite pencil does well in bringing some of that very dark shading out. Okay, gotta fill in this ring finger. Okay, furry sleeve all below. See this, everything down here, I'm just improvising, but that's okay, it's easy to imagine. What might really be here. Okay. His hand is coming along pretty well. And like I said, I'm not really worried about messing it up because in the previous session, I did all that outlining. Right now I'm just detailing, and if the outlining is done correctly, then the artist can put in his or her own personality to finishing the portrait up. I mean, you could do it in color, you could do it in all sorts of different textures, you could finish it with just however you feel like it. I mean, I could use all lines, all flowing the same way if I wanted. Or I could use cross-hatching all over. I could make his suit pink with purple polka dots, and it would still look like the same person. He would just be wearing a different colored suit. But a person would see the image, the portrait, and immediately say, hey, it's Santa Claus. Well, chances are this is the only Santa Claus I'll be doing this year. But this is a good time to do Santa Claus at Christmas time. All right. I'm going to define his nails a little more. And his fingers a little more. I'm still going to have to come back and do some highlighting with my eraser in the areas where the grayness, the gray values and shades took up too much real estate. All right. It's like a battle. Sometimes art is kind of like a battle. One line gets too far into another space, and then the other space protests, hey, Okay, under the ring finger. Or I guess it could be like a sports contest. One team scores, the other team scores, back and forth until the lines and the shades come out just right and the game ends. All right, here, this is I said I was going to work on the beard. What happened? I'm way down here working on his coat. That's okay, I'll get back to it. Here's that bell. It's got a shadow underneath. It's kind of gold or brass, so it's not all white. There's a little bit white reflection in it, but I can come back and highlight that later with my eraser. All right. I can make big general swaths of grayness all over his coat. And his hat. Little highlight on his hat too. Whereas what I'm doing now is kind of a light red color. These lighter shades up here, lit up by some light, are more pinkish. Checking this hair here. Actually, I went too far to the left. It should be vertically. This little wisp of hair should correspond to where this part of the bottle hits this pointy finger. That connection right there, if I move upward, it should end right about here. But that's not a problem because this is actually shadow in here. And then that should go down a little bit more. There. Alright, now let me fill in this shadow underneath the cap. This little fluffy cap, which even has some wrinkles in it, like right here. Okay, this hair up here is much like his beard, very white, with some areas of gray. that thumb. Some more gray. Oh, look, I'm back to the... Finally got back to the beard. Distracted again by the bottle. Coca Cola actually sounds kind of good right now. I'll probably have some coffee though instead. All right, let's see. Big areas of gray right here. Improvising down here. Okay, let's see. Got some more work on this beard to do. Using the edge of my pencil for some wide, soft shading here. Doesn't have to look perfect because these forms of a big beard like this, depending on movement and where it falls, we're going to change anyway. These shapes are going to change. I just want to stick to the basic form of it. This is all going to get smoothed out here in a minute anyway. A bit. Then I'll have to go back in, do some more highlighting and definition work. There's a dark shadow down here between his sleeve and his jacket. Make that opening a little bigger. Here's a little cross hatching. A good way to fill in an area. Averages out to look pretty smooth, really. And here's another direction for cross hatching. 3 directions. Alright, and then I could pretty much just fill this whole area in because it's about a medium shade. even with the belt buckle and the dark belt. I don't want to cover up my outline though, and that would be bad. Alright, let me go in with some smoothing. Whoa. See how the smoothing calms down all those lines that could be seen before. Gives it that airbrushed sort of smooth, gradated look. That I love. But where you need it, you don't want to do it everywhere. Just where you need the smoothing. And those soft gradations between surfaces and areas. Oh yeah, there's going to be some highlighting necessary. I've taken away a lot of highlights in his hand. Tooken. Did I say tooken? I meant taken. I don't know if tooken is a word. Well, I guess I just made it up. So maybe it is a word. Alright, let's see. Yeah, gotta stick to the softening, smoothing. As you can see, it's an easy way to get some really spread out lines. I don't want to spend all day drawing Santa Claus because this is going to be a busy day for him. He doesn't want to sit around here all day being drawn. He has to get out and do his job tonight. Ho, ho, ho. All right. Now, I said I was going to need to highlight some of those areas and correct some places where I shaded too much. So, this is a neat little device shaped like a pencil. And you just fill it with an eraser lead. Get a nice sharp edge. You still want those laugh lines there, just pick up the edge a little bit. Now, his nose has a very bright spot on it. I'll come back and tone it down a little bit with some darkness. There's that nose highlight we started with to use for measurements. And then there's a pretty good highlight on this cheek over here. I'll have to fill that in around there too. Okay, now for his hair and his beard. Pretty bright areas on it. A little bit of reflection here on the cap. And of course here on the bell, made of metal, there's going to be some pretty good reflections. I'll have to go back and fill in some darker areas around that too. Now the bottle, yeah, there's some reflections on it. Some shine. And on this nail here, there's a pretty good reflection. Got a little too dark on this knuckle, this finger segment. Thumb as well. If I were really good, I would not have to do any erasing. That could always be a goal of an artist, to get everything down correctly the first time. Alright, little reflection on this button here. A little bit on the edge of this buckle. Right, got most of that finished, so now let me just do some highlighting, some dark highlighting, highlight some features, bring out that personality a little bit more. But I want to do it softly and slowly and correctly. The eyes have been called the windows to the soul. There's a whole lot of expression and messaging that can be done through the eyes. This little, I would like for that to be a little whiter. There we go. Not nearly as bright as the painting, which is just, it's a very brilliant painting that anyone can see on the internet. I don't know when it was done, maybe in the 40s or 50s or 60s. That's the 20th century I'm talking about. But it's so brilliant and colorful, cheerful. So many Santa Claus advertisements done by, well, not just this soft drink company, but probably many others. Trying to isolate this little reflection on his nose. Okay, then there's a little bit on the cheek here that I need to fix. this mouth, a lot of contrast to the face provided by this open mouth, because some very dark shades inside next to his tongue, around his tongue. Yeah. Okay. A little definition in his, a little more definition in his beard. Guess what? There's a little tiny highlight on this lip that I overlooked. So I'll try to bring that out too. I could spend all day trying to get this drawing to look exactly like the reference, and that's not going to happen. It's far from perfect. I'm just doing my best in this allotted amount of time to try to get it as faithful looking as I can to the original. That's just what I, as an artist, like to do. I like to try to be realistic with my renderings. I don't understand abstract art. But there are people who do it very well. That's just not where my talent lies. that thumb again. Oops. Very dark shading down here. Under his shoulder. I think I'm getting close to finishing Santa Claus up here. Just a couple less important things to do. Trying to get all these parts more defined. A little more wrinkle here in his jacket. Make it look a little more interesting. Okay. Belt, very dark leather belt. Outline it and then just fill it in. There's just a couple of reflections like right here inside the buckle, and then maybe one right here. Yeah. The Fat Man, as some people call him. This version of Santa Claus, anyway, is pretty fat. As we all know, the original Santa Claus, called Saint Nicholas, We don't have any photographs of him, but he did exist around 300 AD. He was a bishop, I think in Turkey, and very generous person, as tradition has it. Very dark belt. Oh, and St. Nicholas is also referred to as the wonder worker, who had the ability to do wonderful things, make wonderful things come true for people in need. Good example for the rest of us. All right, it's getting there. Let me step back and take a look. That's what an artist always needs to do toward the end of the project. Step back and just observe for a little while. That's a different point of view when you step back and look at it differently. Some people like to hold up their drawing in a mirror. I guess if it looks okay in the mirror, it's going to look okay not in the mirror too. I never do that, but who knows? Maybe it works. Okay, the battle continues between light and dark. That battle I was talking about. That game of sports. Whatever it is. I'm happy with this face. It's close enough. I'm just trying to tidy up some things here. Okay, I wanted to make sure I got this done by Christmas, and since it's early Christmas Eve, I think I will. Once I get this finished, I'll have to work on the soundtrack, provide some hopefully entertaining music that you're hearing now. Anyway, this is a good example of how I create art. At least with a pencil. I'm going to smooth a few more little things out. So they don't look quite as harsh. Then I think I'll be about finished. I gotta let Santa Claus go. It's Christmas Eve. He needs to get to work. So I will sign this and also wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Holy Days, whatever it is you celebrate. Do it with good cheer, and Happy New Year's.